the wrong building.
In the wrong town.
They will be here shortly.
And also, we have Charlotte Chung and Lucy Pohl.
Oh,
if you would please, come on up.
Let's see, we got Charlotte.
Hello. We're not sure who's where. Okay.
And Lucy, you can sit here.
Sit here?
Yeah, wherever you like.
Thank you. Okay.
These lights are like.
Oh, hello.
These lights are crazy.
Wow,
I feel like I'm
yeah.
under arrest.
Yeah.
Totally.
Not that I would know what that
We're
was.
doing the panel to a couple of trains.
Did they just dim?
They did. They heard you.
Wow. God, I wish I had like $1,000 in my hand right now.
Me too.
Oh, it doesn't work.
Oh my God! Well, welcome to MomoCon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
First time at Momo.
Really?
Only second time ever in Atlanta.
Mine too. First time at Momo, first time in Atlanta.
Oh, rock on.
Yeah.
Wow.
First time at Momo, like 1,000th time in Atlanta. There's so many times, but never been to a
Same.
con, so.
Yeah. Well,
Should we
you
introduce
can,
ourselves
yes,
or
please?
ladies first?
Yeah.
Oh, hi. I'm Lucy Pohl, and I voice Mercy. Heroes never die.
Awesome.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Chung, and I am most known for Diva from Overwatch.
Yay! That's awesome.
Hello, I'm J. Michael Tatum, and I do stuff. Yeah, it's most known probably for Sebastian and Black Butler. Calm down, it's only Friday, save your voices. and other stuff. And the lovely lady to my right.
Hi, I'm Josh Greeley. Probably most recently known for Yuri in Yuri on Ice, Yuri Koski, and Armin Arlert in Attack on Titan. And also a Mercy main. And
Hey, there we go.
Jerry Jewell.
I'm the not so great, but definitely late Jerry Jewell. What are we doing? Introductions?
Yes.
I've done some stuff. And some of you have seen it. And I hope you liked it. I enjoyed doing it.
there's you in the front row, actually.
Hey, yeah. Hello.
Awesome. Well, the first question I just wanted to go ahead and just get out of the way is how you all ended up doing VA work in the first place.
A lot of bad choices early on in life. I was tricked into it. It's a true story.
Yeah.
I was an actor as a kid. I did a lot of stage and film stuff when I was little, and I loved it. But then I grew up and was like, oh, it's hard to make a living at. I'll do something more respectable. So like marketing, which was a terrible idea. I was really bad at it. And I knew a friend of mine that worked at Funimation as a director. Had been with them for several years, and he was like, hey, do you want to come act for us? And I was like, no. Because I was like, oh no, that's not me anymore. I can't possibly. And he didn't take no for an answer. Chris Bevins never does take. He's like, no, you're coming in whether you like it or not. And I came in and I thought it was just an audition. And I thought, he was like, no, it's great. You're gonna suck, and we'll just laugh at it, and we'll never speak of it again. You're not gonna win the part. It's fine. Just come in and do it. And I did. And he's like, awesome. You just won the part, and you signed a contract. So you're an actor now. Be back here next Sunday for the next 8 episodes. I'm like, what?
And that's how easy it is, guys. That's it. And then you're
that's how it
famous.
is. So if your dream is to become an actor, follow my path. Do nothing.
Exactly.
And when you're given the opportunity, actually turn it down. Worked for me.
Well, for me, it was. I fell in. My mother put me into theater when I was very young. I started doing just children's theater and stage when I was about 5, and also around the same age, I fell in love with cartoons and just animation in general. My first words in this world were DuckTales, woohoo. Yes. And as I got older, I just kind of realized, no, I kind of want to marry these two loves, and I actively pursued voice work, and I became a fan of anime and video games also very young, and two of the biggest studios for recording anime in the U.S. were an hour and a half north of me and 2 hours south of me, and so I just kind of worked my way into one and ended up working for both over the last couple of years, and they liked me enough they kept me.
I like him. Mine is not that similar from both of theirs, actually, if you kind of tie them together. I think everyone started doing something in the entertainment world fairly young. I went through all the classes that you have offered in school, if they still offer those. Sorry if they don't in the future, it wasn't my fault. And, you know, just kind of had a friend that wound up working at Funimation in the engineering department, and he asked if I would like to come audition because he had been with me in drama and choir and all that stuff. So I auditioned, and they asked me to come back and audition again for another thing, and it just kind of kept going from there. Until you see this. And you go, that's why he's a voice actor.
Yeah, I just needed the money, guys.
That's fair.
Just that. No, but yeah, I was an actor, and then I auditioned, and they said I should audition from a home studio for the role of Mercy, so I got under my covers in my bed. I just took a big blanket, and that's how I auditioned, and then I got a call back. That's what you call the second audition in our industry, and then yeah, they cast me. So that's how it happened. For this part, at least.
What was the question again?
How you started out?
Oh, right. Well, I've been doing television for 11 years, and about 8 years in, actually, when I was in high school, funny story, I would always be talking in just like my inside voice, like totally normal voice, but like down the hall, somebody would be like, Charlotte, I knew it was you. And so it's like, okay, maybe they're onto something. So I knew that eventually I wanted to pursue something in voiceover, or at least have it to be something that I got to do while doing television and film. But and I'm sure everybody here could attest. It's maybe besides you, but it's a really hard industry.
Weirdo.
Hang on, we just met.
I'm sorry, I'll go.
I'm just kidding. Well, I was complimenting
Everyone
you,
professional
actually.
except you.
No. What I was trying to say is that it's a hard industry to break into. I think more so than television acting. Like television acting, you could get a commercial, or you can get, a one-liner in a film or a Disney show, or wherever you're starting off. But voiceover is it's kind of a club. Like once you're in, but it takes sort of that first person.
Not you.
Again,
not you.
I didn't have to do
I was
anything.
only saying because you got in, and that's not typical.
at
There we go.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not typical. You were quite fortunate, and so I was looking. This is not
It's all
turning
gonna
out
come
to
crashing down any moment now.
and so it was something that I was looking to get into, but it was really hard. I mean, it was just like hard to find people that were willing to open the door, even though I'd been doing television for so long. So I've kind of found this really interesting niche of work, which was basically to play North Korean people in video games. And so I ended up playing but then my voice isn't very like, I don't sound like a militaristic person, so, per se. So I ended up actually being a North Korean Teletubby on the Conan O'Brien show.
Nice.
Look it up on YouTube. It's interesting.
So great.
And thus began my career. And so after that came Call of Duty. I'm Sarah from Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and then which was down here. And then I got Diva on Overwatch, which is up here. Love Diva. So it's been an interesting journey.
That's awesome. You get to be a Teletubby. That's great.
A North Korean one.
A North Korean Teletubby.
That's awesome. I want that on my resume.
Can I get a show of hands? Who wants to do voice acting work?
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Wow.
keep those up.
Amazing.
Out of everybody with their hand up that wants to do voice work, how many of you have any sort of experience in theater or acting in general? Oh my God, you are already ahead of the curve. That is fantastic.
He stood up. I'm like, I'm in student debt, sir. That is how serious I am.
Well, then you're already, all of you are already on the right track for
Yeah,
it, really.
that's true.
Like,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. We don't need to go into the whole spiel.
Well, if I could go into like a really quick thing, because what Charlotte said is absolutely true, and I've learned this to be true, even though I kind of got into it in a very weird way. I got into it via anime because I happened to live near the studio, and it was just a different time. Because I've been doing this forever, and it was a different time, and it's something like things have changed, so now it's much harder because a lot of people want to get into voice acting because it's super fun, and it's the idea is, and I don't know how true this is. I think it's true for a lot of people that you want to be an actor, but you're not necessarily comfortable getting up on stage in front of people, or you're not comfortable enough with your appearance to subject it to the scrutiny of a camera crew. And so you see voice acting as like, well, I could do that because no one cares what I look like or what I dress as, and that's true. Having said that, though, unless you have some experience, I feel doing stage, especially stage, because stage is like the granddaddy of the craft. I think everyone should start out doing stage or workshops of that nature.
Yes.
Like unless you're, the key word is, Josh says this all the time, and I love to rip him off on it. Like the key word in voice acting is acting. And voice acting is harder in many ways than other types of acting. It is more freeing in terms of your range. You're not limited by how you look, so you can play a character that looks nothing like you. If your voice can go there, they don't care. But making that character believable when all you have is a microphone and the animation and a script in front of you, and not other actors, because we almost never work off of each other in real time. It's always recorded independently because it's just how the timing has to work out. So being able to create a very real and authentic human being, or cat, or whatever you're playing, you need acting chops, and it's really hard when all you've got is that. It's like being a master carpenter and someone comes along and says, awesome, build me a house. You only get a hammer to use. That's all you have. It's hard. So I tell everyone who wants to be a voice actor, whatever your relationship to the idea of being on stage or in front of camera, do it, because that's how you become an actor in voice acting. Everything you learn in those environments or what you'll bring to the table and distill through the microphone. And if voice acting is the first thing you go for, it will overwhelm you and baffle you, and you'll feel like, what am I doing? Because I had that experience because I was out of acting for about 10 years before I came back, and I had to relearn everything because I'm like, oh my God, I've never acted in front of just a microphone before. Am I doing it right? How do I stand? What do I do this? And I couldn't get out of my head, and so the character came across in the early days feeling like someone struggling to make it work, and it didn't, it was a learning curve. So the moral of the story is, for God's sakes, take classes, take workshops all the time. All of us, I'm sure, even those of us that are established and doing this for a long time, we continue to take workshops because that's our craft. Where there's never like, oh, I've done this class, I've got my degree, I'm just it's smooth sailing from now on.
You will never stop learning.
No, and I would just also add to that I think the stage work is so important for voice actors because it develops actually your instrument, your voice, which is what your tool is, what you're working with. And I think that's so important to spend time learning how to use the anatomical part of what makes your voice. So how to use your breathing, and how, it's really amazing what you can do when you learn about how to breathe right and how to use your instrument, what you can do to change your voice, and the different ranges you can get into by shooting the breath up into your head, like the top of your forehead. It sounds weird, but there's certain techniques to, reach different sounds and different qualities to make your voice more, have a different range. So I think it's really important, added to, taking acting classes, to take classes that have to do with breathing and just voice work when it comes to the instrument. And then also for you guys that see us here, like we're here now, and we also got lucky by being able to work on projects that are popular, but it's a culmination of years and years and years of doing lots of things and trying to go for any or every opportunity
Seeing what sticks.
that we've seen. So sometimes it looks like, oh, wow, these people just were born like this. They're born successful or on a successful project, but that's not the case. We've done so much work that nobody's heard about, that's gone nowhere. Like I've done, I think, like 1,000 language learning programs where I just sat in a booth and said, like, gehen, laufen, schauen, nein, ja, in German for like 7 hours, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I would just say definitely, put in the work and then something will stick, like you said, yeah.
Kind of adding to the foreign language thing, I was trying to get in for a couple of years and couldn't find a way in, and the North Korean thing happened. And then, if you have something that kind of makes your voice unique, whether it is another language or if it's just being able to that if your natural voice is in a different register, whether it's very low or very high, those are the things that you can kind of take with you and to sort of market your voice.
Totally.
In order to find your way in. It doesn't mean that that's what you're going to be pigeonholed into for the rest of your career, so to speak, but if you can find something that makes your voice unique from the rest of everyone else, you can kind of get in that way, and then from there expand on your range as well.
Yeah.
Kind of adding to that, actually, then too. One of the biggest things that I've heard from directors, like especially a few years ago, Chris Ayers used to talk about this a lot when he was directing for ADV Films, was that when he first started out, he was floored by how many people would come in and try so hard to just do impressions of like other established characters. Like they would be auditioning for some like a super serious show or something, and would be throwing out their best Cartman or Bart Simpson or Meat Wad, and every time you say, okay, no, then that's a great impression, but I want to hear you. And they would inevitably just try to do another impression, trying to show their range, trying to show off or whatever. And all that did was show Chris and everybody else in the studio that they could not take direction. And so, like, another thing that it's really important is, yes, tune your instrument and play around with it and try to find your range of voices and try to do fun stuff, because that's part of the fun. But first and foremost, find your voice, because your voice, whether you think so or not, is unique in its own way. Like nobody else sounds exactly like you.
Yeah.
So use that. That's an asset.
Absolutely.
There's one more
He's
thing I want
right.
to add, because it's the least interesting part, but it's the most vital. So everyone that wants to get into acting, I know this is true for me too, like, oh my God, the acting, the art, the craft of it, the fun of it, because it's a very fun job if you can get the work, but no one is interested in the business side of it, which, truth be told, is about 80% of what you'll do. We spend, I think everyone up here, however successful we look or are or whatever, like we spend about 90% of our time auditioning for things we will never get. Every day, I think on average we get about 100 auditions for every one thing you actually do land. That's just the name of the game. I mean, whenever you are sent an audition, thousands often of other voice actors have gotten the same audition, so you have to put in your work. But there's more to it than that. Like I've met so many very talented young people that have that have done the work. They know the workshop scene. They've done that. They know how to use their voice. They can act, but they are taken advantage of by agencies that aren't reputable, because they don't know how to gauge, a good agent from a bad. They don't know the etiquette of walking into a studio. They don't know how to go about, how to look professional. They don't know simple things like, for God's sakes, remember the receptionist's name. Things like that are really, really, really important. How to cut a demo, how to build a home studio or put one together, or use a mic and a sheet if that's what you've got, because we've all been there. The business side of it is vital, because no one is going to do that for you. I know I had dreams of, as a young person, going, well, I'm going to act and I'm going to do everything I can to land that one big show, and then I get it and it's going to be smooth sailing. People will be there to do all the work for me, and I just have to show up and be me. No. It doesn't happen. So study the business side of it. That's like, it's 80% of the craft is the boring stuff of how to promote yourself, how to find an agent, how to cut a demo reel, things like that, that just even talking about them makes me, but you have to master that because no one's gonna do it for you. And
I have a question for you guys. Since I know Lucy's from New York, and are you guys all from LA?
Texas.
Texas.
Yeah.
Oh.
All from
Actually.
Dallas.
All from Dallas. I was just there. Great city, by the way.
Thank you.
A question that I get that I feel like I'm sure somebody in the audience has is how do you go about pursuing a successful voiceover career or acting career in general when you don't live in Los Angeles or New York, or if you're in New York, how do you pursue things that are in LA? For me, I know I put things on tape, I film things on tape to send to New York and also for voice auditions as well. And I feel like the bi-coastal thing happens pretty easily and frequently, but could you kind of help them maybe, or help talk about what you do because you're outside of the quote-unquote market?
Yeah. Well, you definitely have to live. One of the main rules of the business side of it is you have to live where the work is. And there are only certain places it's done. Like, you're not going to get a lot of work if you live in Boise, Idaho, for example.
But I will guarantee Boise, Idaho has something there.
Something.
For, they'll be looking for voice talent for every political season that comes around.
Right.
That's true.
For industrials. Just about everywhere has something you can do.
Yeah.
Radio. I mean, everywhere
Yeah,
Radio.
has radio.
Everywhere has radio, except North Korea, I think.
Well, and so the truth is, and getting back to the question of voice acting and the acting part of it is, we are voice actors, kind of, that's just where we found ourselves. Like, we were actors first, and voice acting just happened to be where we flourished, and we stick with it because they keep using us, and we're glad for the work. But you really have to cast your net as wide as possible. So wherever you live, if you don't happen to live in a voice acting hub like Dallas or LA or New York or Vancouver, which are the big centers for like gaming and anime voiceover, then you've got to go with what's there. Like Jerry said, there's an advertising market in every major city that they need voiceover. You may not get a lot of chances to do games or the cool stuff you think about because you're not living where it gets done. And they're not going to commute. I mean, no one's going to let you audition for a show out in LA and then pay a plane ticket on someone who's new and untested. That just never happens unless you're there in person. They don't care who you are. So it's important to cast your net wide and to do all sorts of acting, not just voice acting. So that's what I mean about like looking for stage work, looking for film work, because there's all of that is going on everywhere. Even if it's community theater or whatever, do it just to keep your chops up.
Mime does not really help in voice acting, but that's about the only thing. That's about the only one that doesn't help in voice acting. All of you could play a mime.
And also, and getting, something else I want to talk about too, cultivate other talents. Learn a language, learn an instrument, because you'd be surprised how often those things will play into an audition and will give you an edge. Like, hey, we're looking for someone that knows German. And you'll be like, well, I know German, so I can get this audition more than someone else. Or, hey, I can play piano, and they need someone to play piano in this ad, and, whatever. So, like, cultivate other talents that will feed into your craft.
But also, nowadays, you can make stuff on your own
True.
That's true.
easily, like more easily than, 15, 20 years ago. The mics are really great. You can build a home studio. The cameras out there are amazing, and so many of you do that anyway. You have YouTube channels and do amazing things, and you can really get noticed that way. So if you are somewhere where you feel like there's nothing going on and you don't have the opportunity to go out to LA or New York, do your own thing. And I think across the board, the most important thing is what you said, that what you think might be a setback for you or what makes you different is actually going to be your strength and is what's going to set you apart. So, don't try to change that. Take that and run with it. And make your own thing. You never know, just go for it. If you want to do it, do it. Don't wait for anybody to give you permission to do it.
Although I think Atlanta, like in terms of territories, Atlanta has a huge sort of showbiz market.
That's true.
And I have a friend who was actually kind of quite known, but he was working in LA for about 20 years since he was a kid and decided to move to New Mexico for the sort of, for the showbiz market there. So I mean, we're in some ways, if you're in Atlanta or New Mexico, I guess now, or what are some others? Louisiana. These are some
Louisiana's
great
really
places
starting to
in the
get-
South. New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah.
You're in a good market.
And even pay attention to politics a little bit if it doesn't make you completely sick, because whatever comes up, a lot of those places wind up being places to go for entertainment because of the tax deals that are done with the
true.
state.
Totally
Right.
true.
You
Yeah.
know, so be conscious of that sort of thing. I think that's probably how, isn't like The Walking Dead's in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
Over in Congress.
I guarantee it's not because they went, oh, Georgia, that's the perfect place to go and film things. It's because they had a
Yeah.
deal.
Totally.
That's true.
North Carolina has a lot too.
So what would you say, like, what's something that new incoming voice actors should avoid? Like pitfalls that you've constantly seen over and over again from people trying to get in?
Besides being a voice actor, I'm an ADR director at Funimation. I can tell you, kind of adding on to the things to do and not to do when you come in. Don't come into an audition to meet someone that you like and fawn over them. That is not the time or place to do it. Don't come in cosplay. That is a
Has
huge
that
red
happened
flag.
before?
Oh yes, it has happened.
It happens.
What was
That is almost a guarantee that no matter how good you are not getting a job.
Wow.
So there are little things like that.
What do you think the logic is behind that? Why would you do that for a job
I don't
interview?
know. No, I wouldn't.
You know, I can tell you, I've had experiences because I've done some directing up there,
Yes.
and anyone that's done it for any length of time can immediately tell the difference between someone who's professional and someone who was just kind of like, doing this for the first time and has no idea how to carry themselves. And showing up in cosplay is one of them, because I'm sure the thinking is, oh, if I come dressed as their favorite character, things will go really smoothly. And I'm like, I don't care if you're dressed as Sebastian. I mean, you look great, but I care about whether you can act. And this is just a distraction. It's also, it's you trying to gain an edge, and that tells me that if you're trying to gain an edge of something that has nothing to do with your voice, then you don't trust your voice to do the work for you, and that means as a director, that immediately puts a wall between us. People will show up sometimes with completely BS stories about like, oh, I was told to audition here, and you're like, no, your name's not on the list, and they go, oh, and I'm sure they just, in their hearts, they go, well, I'm gonna show up and be like this, and they think, Jerry or Josh or someone's gonna walk out and be like, wait, say that again. Come with me, like, that's their thing. Never happens. Never happens that works out for anybody.
No.
And so I think the biggest pitfall I see people do is they come in with they have this idea, this sort of, what's the word
The
I'm looking
fantasy.
for?
It's the fantasy.
It's a fantasy, but they also they've got this plan, this scheme, like how they're gonna like circumvent all the work and all the waiting and get right to the heart of it. Like, like people that come up to you, this happens to a lot of us at cons. Not here, I'm sure, because Atlanta's awesome. But at cons, people will come up to us and be like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan, and they'll gush, and they'll give you gifts and stuff, and then they'll be like, so how do I become a voice actor? And they'll ask you this right after you've just given a big lecture on how to do it, and so clearly they're like, no, but really, like for me, how can you get me in, is what they mean to say. And that's the last thing to do. Like, don't think the logic of asking a voice actor to like do a favor by getting you in through the back door is like the most disrespectful thing. It's like going to your boss at your job and being like, hey, so how do I get rid of you and do your job? Because it looks pretty easy, and I'm just thinking, and it's not, I mean, I'm just saying, like, we're voice actors. It's a very competitive market.
We have no power, by the way.
No.
Yeah, we have
Can't give you
no
a job
power
at all.
And so we're just kind of like, well, if I could answer your question, I'd be working a lot more for me. So it's just be mindful and be respectful and leave your ego at the door. You get those people that come in and go, I'm going to be the next Vic Mignogna or the next big thing. And you're like, you just got here. Calm down.
Yeah.
And you're like, just be nice and, be nice to people, treat them with respect and do your best and just come in and be humble. I mean, because I think we touched on earlier, it takes a lot of luck to make it in any entertainment or artistic business, because, it's just that kind of thing. But luck does tend to favor the humble and the hardworking, and the patient. So just be all those things, and if you try to find another way to like some kind of edge, and it will, I promise you, it'll blow up in your face.
Yep. And don't, just kind of to add a little bit to that, is on the whole, like trying to find a back door, because a lot of people do try to find a back door, and messaging people like us, like on Facebook, like privately, or on Twitter or whatever, being like, so how can I get into Funimation, or how can I get into Blizzard, or anything like that, generally not going to help you either. It's kind of in the same, it's in the same vein.
Yeah.
Also, if you do happen to land an audition, punctuality is great.
It's very important.
It's very important. Don't be late,
Yeah.
for God's sakes. Being early is great. You know, like half an hour early. Don't be 4 days early, or a week early. Like we've had that too before. No, like there was a person that got booked for an audition who lived in another state, had not told them that they lived in another state first and foremost. Came down, got a ticket, flew down a week before the scheduled audition, walked into the studio, was like, okay, I'm ready for my audition.
Oh no.
It's like, that's not how this works, man.
And just to play devil's advocate a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
don't take anybody's advice and just do what you want to do the way that you want to do it.
It's
Yep.
true. That's true.
And then again, she just admitted she's advocating for the devil. So take that for what it's worth.
Yes.
Wow.
You went, wow.
And you know, like I get the idea and the motive behind like trying to talk to somebody that is already established in the business and trying, because like who you know does play a factor. Like I wouldn't be doing this if it hadn't been for Charlie Campbell, for me knowing him and him giving me a chance to really show my chops and to learn the business. But I never asked him, hey, can you get me into this? It was like, hey, I would like to learn. Like, would you be willing to show me some of the ropes, or like just take some of your time to give me some pointers or whatever? Like, again, having a good attitude, being easy to work with, knowing what they expect and being able to deliver on that. So having the ability to act, and a little bit of luck. That's you put all those together, and that's kind of what this business is.
Kind of works.
Yeah.
Earlier, there was mentioned the difference between a good agent and a bad agent. Can you like elaborate on that for a second? Because not everybody like knows the business.
Well, it depends on, I mean, I'll tell you this right out the gate. If you ever get approached, like say you take a workshop, and this does happen, and it's a good, reputable workshop, there are many of them out there. There are many workshops that aren't. I mean, it's just, you have to kind of field it for yourself and be like, is this person established? Are they successful? Do they know what they're talking about? How much money are they charging? If they're charging like $1,000 for like an 8-hour session, that's a bit much. In my view, it depends on who it is, I suppose. But like, let's say you get approached by someone who says they're an agent at a workshop and says, hey, that's awesome, we'd love to have you. Sign here, if you'll just give us like, say, X amount of dollars, like say $500, and we're gonna put you through some classes. If they ask you for money, apart from like the basic fees for like joining SAG, or things of that nature that just any agent has to do, like that's not an agent, that's a scam. That's a workshop like trying to like tell you they'll get you work if you sign with them and give them money, and that's not how agents work. Agents don't make money off of you up front, they make a percentage of what you earn from clients. So which is their incentive to go out and find you auditions, because that's the only way they get paid. If they come to you and they basically pay to play, they're like, hey, give us this money, we'll give you the auditions, that's not a real agent and you're being screwed. And I feel very strongly about that too, because there are a lot of people that try to set themselves up as agents who don't have the contacts in the industry to get you high-profile auditions, or sometimes any auditions, but yet they expect you to pay like a fee per month or per year or something. Be very, very, very wary of any agent that asks for money up front, aside from certain like just overhead costs. Like they may send you to a studio to get headshots. That's fine. They may want you to join this or that union depending on the region you're in. That's also part of the game. But if they want anything, but like, oh, well, cool, so yeah, join us. We have a workshop we'd like you to take for X amount of dollars. That's, in my mind, that's a scam, and avoid it like the plague. A good agent is also not someone who approaches you. They're someone who, like, you get told about and you send in your demo reel, and then they ask you, awesome, we like your demo, come in and audition for us. Like, it's a process. It's not anyone selling you a dream. If it sounds too good to be true, it is in this business. So I hate to put it like this, but you generally know if they're a good agent if it's really, really hard to get their attention in the first place. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that?
Funny story though, my agent who represents like Steve Bloom and some of these other great voiceover actors, ended up representing somebody who picked her up in a limo, like her limo driver. So there are some stories out there where
does happen.
he
It
was
does happen.
he was driving her, and she's like, "You have a great voice," like sort of something that like you should always avoid if somebody said to you. But she was like, "You have a great voice. I'd like to represent you." And then he was like, "Who are you?" And so she told him who she was, and then ended up signing him. And then he works now in voiceover. So that's somebody.
So there's
amazing.
that does happen every now
It
and again. An
does,
agent
yeah.
will be like, there's something about you. So it does happen.
And you can
You got the
research
spot.
when
them.
you do, but
Exactly.
You can,
But
you can
if you ever
research
do get
them.
approached by someone, do the research on them
Because
before you agree to
information is
anything.
out there
See
with
who
it.
else they represent. If you happen to
Right.
know anybody else they represent, talk to them and ask their own
Yeah.
experience with this person. Because every agency is a little different, and every person's experience with their agency is going to tell you a little something about them that you couldn't that the agent themselves is never going to tell you.
Yeah, always research
Yeah,
them.
always.
No matter who
research.
it is, even if it's not an agent. Always
Yeah.
Google people.
Yeah.
Right.
Always
Find out if
stalk.
they're
Always know who
shady.
you're dealing with.
And like I feel like you two would be able to really tell, like, if you want to, about the like trying to find in different markets. Like how does that work for you? If you don't mind elaborating on that.
You mean how to find agents?
Or I mean like you live in New York, but you get like work out like in,
Oh,
like,
right.
in LA
Yeah.
or something
So
like
there's a lot of agents that will be bi-coastal, which means they have offices in LA and New York, or my agents, I think they have more offices than that, but so they're definitely bi-coastal. And so then they will, work with people in LA that are looking out for things that they think are right for you, and will send that to you. And then I know people that will get an agent in New York and maybe have a manager in LA, so you can kind of, there's that too, there are managers. Those people also look for jobs for you. So that's how it worked for me. And then if you don't have an agent, there's Actors Access, which I used for a long time before I had an agent. And there's acting work on there that's non-union or union. I'm guessing most of you here will not be union, so you got to start somewhere. You can go on that website and look for jobs and submit an audition, and then, because you got to build a resume before an agent will really look at you, unless you're coming from like Juilliard or like a top acting school. So yeah, I think it's the bi-coastal thing that's worked for me in terms of getting, being in multiple markets.
Kind of the same for me too. But on a more philosophical note, I think one thing that I look for in any representation is somebody who believes in you outside of what you feel people might see you as, believing in a range. Because I think for myself, like going from Call of Duty to Overwatch was a big leap, and if it weren't for the fact that somebody was able to hear and believe that I could do both kinds of voices,
Totally.
I would have sort of been pigeonholed into doing cutesy voices all the time, or military voices all the time, which is actually a bit of more of a stretch for me personally, but that was my way in. So finding somebody who kind of sees your talent for like the wide range that it is, but is able to also not just throw things on the wall to make you feel like you have to land everything you get, and if you don't, then that you're unsuccessful. Because there are agents out there who will do something like that. Well, they'll approach it in a more like, let's just like throw you on the wall and see what sticks, and it's kind of like that can also be sort of disheartening too, because you're not able to sort of hone your particular sort of highlighted talents, I would say. And along that note, I think that it's important. I want to stress, it kind of goes back to knowing yourself and knowing what it is that you're really good at, but a good agent or a good manager will be able to tell that. So I think that's kind of a big thing to look out for in representation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, if you start auditioning and doing stuff like that, the biggest thing that I've learned also from being behind the camera or being, the one auditioning people is that you really, in a way, can't take it personal. Yes, you can always get better, and yes, maybe sometimes you go in and you don't do a good job, but at the end of the day, it's so not personal. There's something that another person is looking for that's so specific, and if you're not right for it, it doesn't mean that you're not good, or that you're not able, and that you might not be really perfect for something else big and important and successful, so just don't take it personal. And this goes back to what you said in the very beginning, kind of do it for the process rather than the result, or landing the job or getting the big thing.
If
Do
you
it
are-
for the process.
If you are easily crushed by rejection, acting is not the path for you.
Yeah.
And I say that in all seriousness because
We're professional rejects.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah.
Professional losers.
But like she says, just because you go into an audition, and you don't land it doesn't mean you suck. It just means you're not who they're looking for, and
Yeah,
you had no
exactly.
power over that.
Don't take it personal.
Yeah, and it's just it doesn't mean. And I have a wonderful acting coach who always tells me, don't ask what I don't. If you walk out of a scene or an audition or whatever, and you just didn't feel like you landed or you didn't, don't ask what's wrong, ask what's missing, and then work on that, and then bring it to the table. So it's always like, well, let's just play with it. That didn't happen the way I wanted to. Well, it's cool. Well, there'll be other auditions.
Yeah.
I mean, it just happens, and so you do have to make your peace just emotionally with the idea that. I have a very zen approach. I assume I'm going to never ever get any audition. That I'm just kind of doing this to just do it, to kind of keep
fun.
myself in practice for the fun of it, because I'm like, oh, that's a really fun thing to try out. Let's see what happens. And I never expect work out of an audition. And so frequently when I do get something, I'm like, oh, did I audition for? Oh, I did. I totally forget that I even auditioned, because sometimes it goes a couple weeks before you realize they cast it. It took
I'm jealous of that skill.
It took a long time to build that, because in the early days I took it very personally. I thought I would walk out of an audition feeling that I had just nailed it, and then not get cast, and I would be like, I clearly don't know myself. I clearly don't know what I sound like, because I thought I was great and I didn't get the part. And if I was great, that means I get everything I try out for. No, not at all. So you make your peace with that, and just you have to learn to appreciate even the opportunity to ply your trade, so that when you do get every now and again, every 100 auditions, you do land that one role, you'll feel amazing, because you're like, oh wow, I've been practicing. So auditions are practice.
But
They're
it does
practice.
absolutely have to be something you love to do.
Yes.
That's
It is a labor
the
of
bottom
love.
line. It has to. You have to love it, because you're going to have to make a lot of sacrifices and you're going to have to take a lot of rejection. So it's got to be something you love to do.
I think that's with anything, even if it's
Yeah,
not acting that
definitely.
you're going for. You want to go for something in life in general that you would do even if you weren't getting paid for it. So that, and of course you need to eat and have a roof over your head, and you want clothing and all that. The necessities of life are important, obviously, but in general, I always say that if you end up doing what you love, the money will follow. So don't do things for the money, and rather do it for the passion, and that will get to where you need to be. And so kind of going off of what Lucy was saying, love and respect the process, and you'll get to where you need to be.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we have 15 minutes left. There's a lot of everybody here, like a lot of people. So we do have a mic right in.
I don't want to encourage this, but I do have a funny story kind of related to what you were saying. Not to play devil's advocate, but I'm kind of going to do that.
She advocates for the devil too.
Everybody can. line up.
Well, the devil did come down to Georgia, I understand. That was a thing that happened.
But yeah, the story is that I know that it's not encouraged for voiceover whatsoever, especially for those big companies like Activision and all. You don't want to be doing that. But something that actually commonly happens is people crashing commercial auditions in LA. And I don't know if you guys are interested in that.
Really?
Huge. I have
Crashing them?
I have so many friends who have crashed auditions, and actually my friends advocate me. Like, they always go, just come with me. Like, it's for Nike or whatever. And I'm like, it's for Nike. Like, I really shouldn't be going to that. And they'll be like, just come with me. always let us in. So it's
Wow.
really
Wow.
interesting. I am union though, so I do think that that kind of makes a difference. But when it comes,
That's
not for
hilarious.
television, not for film usually, but for commercials, you can crash them. I'm not encouraging it, but
Crash the audition.
Just to say, some people end up getting those like fluke jobs.
Right, and if everything else goes wrong, I think we've all learned recently that you can just go wherever and say, many people tell me I'm the best that they've ever heard, and that they've never seen an actor like me.
Why are you guys sitting?
That's how I was just like everybody was just told to sit down. I was
we
like,
about to
what's
do-
happening?
Are we about to do
It's like
communion
a
or
town
something?
hall meeting.
Let's do questions.
I guess
Sorry.
It's a town hall meeting for small people.
Yeah. Go ahead. First,
I left
first
the
question.
communion wafers at home.
Wait, I don't. So
We have great fruit juice.
I have a question for Charlotte Chung.
Yeah, hi.
It's from the Conan O'Brien show. Do you still work for the television show sometimes? Like,
Do I still work with the?
Conan O'Brien, like for the show?
Oh no, it was just for that one episode. He doesn't usually need North Korean Teletubbies.
Well, he does others.
Which is, I think he needs more of them. Personally.
yeah, I do too.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
He's a little heartbroken.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm a working actor here in Atlanta, stage, film, and voiceover.
Fantastic.
And my question's about the business end of the hardest part of being an actor, getting an agent. I've been working for 14 years, and I still haven't been able to get an agent in any realm of acting. Here in Atlanta, we don't have a whole lot of options. There are like 3 major agencies that do voiceovers, 4 that do theater, and 5 that do film. What are some things we can do to sort of make our resume, demo tape, whatever, be the best it can be when you have such a small number of options?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Write a show about trying to get an agent. Seriously.
Well, what she said earlier about creating your own
Yeah.
content, like you guys are living in an age where that's a thing. You can, if you have a phone and some friends with some free time, you can totally make yourself attractive to any agent by getting a hit YouTube series, for example, or something. I mean, anybody, it's so easy. Oh, I say it's easy. It's a lot easier now because you just need the passion and some modest equipment, and then you can make it. I mean, apart from that, it took me 10 years to get the agent I have, if that tells you anything. So 14 years, while it feels like a long time, isn't that long of a time to get an agent in a market where your choices are limited. Because Dallas is somewhat similar. It's a big VO market now, but back when I was first looking, there was only about 5 or 6 agents, and they all were very highly specialized and kind of boutique agencies, and they didn't even take reels. You had to be recommended to them by someone in their existing talent pool, which was hard. So, I mean, all you can do is, if you're sending your demo reel or your everything out every few months, the rule of thumb for me is every 6 months, if you're not getting a bite, update your demo reel. Do it again.
Yep.
Do it completely differently. Like, do something, like, take chances, which means going outside of your comfort zone. When you make that demo reel, do something that you're not comfortable with doing so it will stand out. I mean, like, you have to make it, understand, you are trying to get the attention of people who hear hundreds of these every week. And so, like, there's nothing new under the sun for them. And you have to think, you have to put yourself in that mindset and go, what is it about me that no one else can do? How can I highlight?
For me, everything changed for me when I started writing my own material. Like, seriously, from night to day. I had been working with agents that weren't great. You know, it was difficult for me to find people as well. And when I started writing my own material, I wrote a show about my life and my upbringing. Everything changed. All the work, all the agents, everything in my career took a turn into the direction that I had been wanting to go into. So I really, really, really encourage people to write their own material and even, write about your life, write about yourself. You might think that it's not interesting and there's nothing in there, but, just do it, get it out, try it out, and see how people react to it. And you'll be surprised, whatever's personal to you will resonate with people because everybody has that personal struggle or personal story. So I'm not kidding. Write something about 14 years of trying to find an agent. Write about the characters, the situations that you've experienced, the thoughts you've had. Write about it. I'm sure it's funny, sad, and incredibly fascinating. You know what I mean? So do it, and then give me 10% when it becomes really good. I'll be your agent.
Yeah. Lucy, can we find that show online anywhere? Like,
Not
you
the
have that
whole
up?
show. There's clips of it online. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter, and I tweet about it. Lucy Pole Comedy. I plugged my Twitter before you guys.
You're all get to plug your Twitter.
So
Yeah.
this is the question. Oh, sorry. This is the question about like you guys being actors and voice actors. How do you transition? Like, when do you usually get the opportunity to say, okay, now you get to ADR direct, or you get to even, host the audition for other people? How do you judge based on your experience, like their performance compared to like yours? And yeah.
I was asked to be an ADR director. There was an opening. They were opening a new booth in Funimation, and I was asked to be a director. I don't know. I think for me it was a matter of enough solid performances over the years that they were like, he obviously knows what he's doing, so I think he'd be all right with this. And it's for actors for the most part. When I'm casting people, I'm not going to cast someone that I'm going, maybe not. I'm not going to cast that person. I'm going to cast people that I see as capable actors. Some that I've worked with before, some that audition, and I go, I'm going to take a chance on this one, something like that. But I want the actor to come in and act. You want to know what's great being a director is when you don't have to do very much. That's the best thing in the world, and that's also one of the ways you know if you cast the show right. If you cast the show right, I feel, and you're working your way through it, and you're going, I've got nothing to say about this. I think I cast it right. The less work I can make for myself, generally, the better the product turns out. So I'm not in there judging everybody's acting all the time, going, well, if I were you, I would do it like this. I hire actors for what they bring to the table, not for myself, if that makes any sense.
It does. Thank you.
So you guys keep talking about demos and stuff. Well, how do you build your demos? Like, I do some radio shows. Would I put that into a demo to send it out? Some of the stuff I do?
If you have clips that you can take, then I don't see why not. Like for my character demo that I've had for the longest time, it's just been clips of different characters that I've voiced over the years. Generally keep them short and sweet, about a minute to a minute and 15 seconds long. Show as much variety in what you can do as possible. And whenever you make your commercial demo or your industry demo, pretty much follow the same guidelines.
Let me add to that just to make sure it's understood. There's a distinction between a demo reel and a resume. Your resume is stuff that you have done and that you can talk about and say, oh, I've done this, I've been in this role, and that looks attractive to clients or agents. Your demo reel is either stuff that you've done and you kind of put it together to showcase your best talents or your best voices, whatever. But frequently, and this is the case in my commercial commercial demo reel, is all fictional. It's all stuff I just wrote myself and recorded it to be like, oh, I listened to the radio for a few days and thought, oh, I'm going to kind of appropriate that spot and do it myself, because no one else hears that but the agent and potential clients. So you kind of are given free reign to just create your own content.
So no copyright issues.
So that's different than a resume. Like building a resume is a different process. Building your demo reel is something that is more or less completely in your control. You can be like, well, let's give them a little 30-second taste of my high voice or this voice or whatever. That's completely up to you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool.
Oh, I have some advice. Crispin Freeman, who is also in Overwatch. I don't know if you guys know him. What is it called?
He's
Winston?
Oh, Winston.
Winston.
Oh no, that's okay. Yes, he's Winston. That's
Yes.
I was looking for the website because he always voice acting mastery. can answer so many questions. A lot of times I'll just be like, Google Crispin Freeman. D. Bradley Baker is another person who has a great website. And a lot of these questions that we end up not being able to answer for you today might be answered on those websites. So those are two great voiceover actors that you can Google and get some information from. And they go very specific too, like in terms of what kind of mics they use and what kind of headphones, and to some of these broader questions. So look them up.
Okay, thank you.
So we have 5 minutes left. So are you comfortable with doing like a lightning round?
Rapid fire.
Yeah,
Rapid
lightning
fire?
round.
Yes or
Okay.
no questions only? No.
Yeah.
Of course.
All right.
Hi, my question is really quick. When recording a character with an accent, how do you maintain your accent throughout the entire recording?
Practice.
Yes.
Just
Is
like
correct.
anything, you just got to work at it and get to the point where you can do that.
Okay.
And also a little bit of relying on your, whoever it is, director or engineer, they can both do it. They'll kind of kick you back into line every now and then.
Yeah,
you know,
and
they'll go,
listen.
hey, you dropped it there. It's time to do it again.
Yeah. Listen to yourself. I think. Yeah.
That's
Just
what's
listen
hard.
to yourself. So.
I've talked myself out of an accent before, and I was like, I don't remember what England sounds like anymore.
Right? Or
Yeah.
sometimes people start off with a German accent and they end up with a French accent.
Yeah.
Or they're
That
doing
happens
Australian and they wind up with British. It happens,
Yeah.
you know.
It's fine.
And
What are you
learn
talking about? That never happened to me.
That's so funny. That went from German to French, right? Yeah, that was awesome. And also know sort of the degrees of it too, because your director will tell you to dial it back by like 7%. Like, what is 7%?
Yeah.
But, who knows? But you better know what 7% is.
And you're like,
Make it
but I
up."
only work in increments of 5.
I was really quickly. I was in the booth once with a director from Yorkshire, and he was Skyping in, and he had this great accent, and he wanted me to kind of get this very particular British accent, and I was like, well, I mean, okay. And it was every few lines he'd be like, oh no, you're, and his direction was like, no, you're drifting out. I need you to head a little more east towards Sheffield, and then a little more north. And I'm like, and I finally just laughed. I said, you all sound the same to us, Jerry. But yeah, so little things like that.
That's awesome.
I know there's the rare occasion that, you know, somebody can have the opportunity to go into anime and everything else in a really weird situation, but if you're really looking to penetrate the market into anime and video game, do you really, really have to move to those pivotal points in LA and New York and Dallas? Like, it pretty much
Yes,
is a
pretty
must.
much, yes.
Okay.
And if-
Yeah,
if
because I know,
you-
like, where Jerry, you were just like, oh yeah, doing industrial and commercial and things like that. I've done those, but I want to go into that avenue, and I've just
Good, because
debated
you have a
whether or not
great
to.
voice for
Yeah,
it.
Thank
yeah,
you.
I was just
Go
about to
for
say
it.
that. I was
But
just
like,
saying.
that's
In fact,
why
I
it's
kind
like,
of don't want to.
You're hired.
I know.
Thanks,
guys.
He doesn't want to encourage.
See, it does
you.
happen,
He's
guys.
So good.
Okay, all right.
Go
well, thank
home.
you.
I want your roles.
Well, thank you very
No,
much.
you should
I-
totally stay here. That's the best way
Yes.
to get into anime.
I
Stay
am so
right
grateful
here.
for that.
Don't change your demo reel at all.
Start advocating for the devil.
Yes, indeed. I'll join their clan. I'll just, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Perfect.
The devil's getting slowly more advocates down this table.
Yeah.
Looks like we have time for one more question.
Uno más pregunta.
Now,
This is for J. Michael Tatum.
Sorry,
How was
guys.
it working with Space Dandy and all?
How what? Say again? Space Dandy.
How was it working on the show?
Oh, it's amazing. I get to play a giant, like really intelligent ape in pimp clothes who flies around the galaxy
Typecasting.
in a Statue of Liberty head with a ball gag in its mouth. I want that tattoo just for the bar fights it's going to get me into. It's great. That was Funimation's first outing in the whole area of broadcast dubs, which is a whole new beast for all of us now. And that was like, we're going to do this, we're going to record it, and it's going to come out in the same day in Japan. Okay. It was great. It was stressful, but I loved it. I love Space Dandy. I love that whole crazy concept. If you haven't seen Space Dandy, go be a better person.
all right.
Thank you.
Everybody will. You are signing like all of this weekend, so
Yes.
between
Yes.
like, you know,
Yes, we have
2:30,
signings.
3:30. So they'll be here all weekend, available to have questions answered. Now, where can everybody find you on social media?
Lucy Pohl Comedy, that's Twitter, LuciePohl Comedy. You Love Lucy on Instagram.
Charlotte Chung, just like it says right here, CharletChung on everything.
I'm J. Michael Tatum on Twitter, and you can also reach me by carrier pigeon or just waiting at a crossroads after midnight.
Okay.
Make sure the bones are fresh. Josh Greeley, as it's spelled, JoshGrelle on Twitter. Same for my website, and my website also has links to other various, including Facebook and Twitch.
You can't find me. I'm hoping that none of you will find me. No, you know, if you type my name into a search engine, it will come up with things, and you go there. And it's not that hard.
If you find yourself at like a realtor page, you're not at the right place.
Yeah, that's not the right place.
Go more east.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Enjoy the con.
Thank you.
We destroyed a bunch of drinks together, guys.